Bayley needs to hear this. I'm sorry. I've seen this over and over, and it needs to be addressed. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what she had to say and why it's not true. In fact, it's false. Because, in my opinion, it's never going to happen, and she needs to let it go. Now, this is coming from someone who considers himself a pretty big Bayley fan. I've followed her career from her NXT days, from the undercard, from the unknown, being part of the Four Horsewomen of WWE alongside Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks. And I've seen her rise in the company. I've seen her ups, I've seen her downs, I've followed her journey. I've enjoyed her babyface runs, I've enjoyed her heel runs. At the end of the day, though, when we talk about Bayley in the same light of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné, well, I think most people would agree that she always falls on the last tier. She's not number one, she's not ahead of those names, and really, she's at the very bottom. That's not to say that she's not a great performer, because that's exactly wrong. She is a wonderful performer. She's a great performer. In fact, I think she's an underrated performer. I don't think she gets enough credit for her in-ring ability, her promos, or her character storytelling. But Bayley, whether or not she's a babyface or a heel, whether she's on the tippy top of the card or on the very bottom, putting over others or having others put her over, she doesn't get the same credits. She's not spoken in the same light of a Charlotte Flair. Now, obviously, with Charlotte Flair, she's going to go down as probably the GOAT. She's definitely going to have the most world title reigns. She's not going to go down as a bigger star than a Becky Lynch, and she's not going to be having the same charisma level of a Mercedes Moné, right? So when we talk about the Four Horsewomen of WWE, you have to keep that in light. Now, Bayley has talked about in the past how she would love to see Mercedes Moné return to WWE. I mean, it's one of her best friends. Why wouldn't she? She's also talked about how she feels like they can do a reunion and or a fatal four-way match, right? Because that's something in which we've all wanted to see on the grand scale, a grand stage, if you will, a WrestleMania or so. Now, while appearing on Going Ringside, Bayley talked about how she would love for them to share the ring together. Various iterations, but they've never faced each other in a fatal four-way match. That's something that she would like to change. And this is what she would say. I would love that. Since we never got it, we had a couple of tag matches in Madison Square Garden. I can be happy with that if the fatal four-way never did happen. I just think the wrestling world is too magical for it not to happen. Becky Lynch has been off of WWE television since May of 2024, and Charlotte Flair has been sidelined with an injury, although probably by the time you've heard this video, she's back. Mercedes Moné is in AEW. Here's the reason why I don't think this match is going to happen, and I think, by the way, someone needs to tell Bayley this. The idea of having a fatal four-way match in WWE involving Bayley, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Mercedes Moné is not realistic, and I'll tell you why. Bayley, I think, is closer to retirement than we most of us think she is. I think she's going to transition into a backstage type producer role in the next 5 years or so. Becky Lynch, she is currently on a hiatus from WWE, and we don't know how much longer she's going to be around the company, considering she is expected to be back in time for the Raw Netflix debut. She's reportedly either in talks or already signed a contract with WWE. We have Charlotte Flair. She had been out for most of this year due to a torn ACL, and meniscus. And you look at Mercedes Moné, she's over in AEW. Now, she signed with AEW reportedly in December of 2023, but let's just say that she signed in March when she made her AEW debut. Now, reportedly, she signed the most lucrative contract involving a female talent in the history of the wrestling business. You must know that that was not a 1-year deal. That was probably not even a 2-year deal. That's probably, if I had to guess, a 4-year deal. Maybe 5. Okay? Point is, she's going to be in AEW for a hot minute. Even if she wanted to pursue other opportunities outside of AEW, well, she can, right? She has various businesses. She's a model. She has Hollywood aspirations, so we don't know how long her in-ring wrestling career could be up. Could she return to WWE one day? Sure. Could she return and do a match? Sure. Is it going to be a full-time run? I don't know. We also have the likelihood that she could just flat out retire after her AEW run. Regardless, there are 4 different people in which could have various outcomes by the time that this match can even happen. That is a lot for the universe to intake. That is a lot for the universe to accept and come together with a plan. Putting it together, making it happen, that's a lot to ask of the universe. We live in a crazy world, y'all. At the end of the day, I think you look at it like this. WWE would love to put on this match. It's one of the biggest matches that they can do. Hands down. Not a shadow of a doubt about it. But if you look at where everyone is at, you look at the state of the wrestling business, I just don't think this match happens. Therefore, I think someone should tell Bayley to let this idea go. Even though the wrestling world, as she puts it, is magical, the fact of the matter is, it's doubtful. The fact of the matter is, I don't see it happening. The fact of the matter is, I think it's time to let this dream go. It's a pipe dream at best. Just let it fade away, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't like to see Mercedes Moné, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch share the squared circle just one more time, even for an 8-woman tag, or a tag team match, or a fatal 4-way. I would love to see that. That is a WrestleMania main event type fatal 4-way bout. Charlotte Flair, gonna be the GOAT. Becky Lynch, one of the biggest names in the history of the wrestling business. Bayley, one of the most underrated stars ever, and Mercedes Moné bringing that fire. That is a recipe for success. That is a recipe for money, right? You know, Moné, she'd love to do that. But let's be realistic. Can we get out of this pipe dream? Can we get out of it? I mean, I think for the most part, people have agreed that, okay, 4 horsewomen of WWE versus 4 horsewomen of MMA, it's not going to happen. In fact, I think that pipe dream died a long time ago, even when Ronda Rousey was still with the company, right? They just were never interested in it. I don't think the 4 horsewomen of WWE have or has as much talk, as much hype as the hardcore of the hardcores are. I don't think it's there. I don't think people are clamoring to see that fatal 4-way match. Regardless of how good it would be. Regardless of who's in the match. How it's booked. What the lead up is. I don't think the demand is there as much as you may think. And this has come from a guy who's a big fan of most of these women. Just saying.